Congressman Scott DesJarlais is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline right now. Congressman, thank you for joining us. Man, there's so much going on. I want to play you some audio. I've been going on and on this morning about how Dr. Anthony Fauci, Dr. Evil is one of the things that I would call him, but he is going to testify today in front of a House investigatory committee. I want to play you a piece of audio, though. This is, I want to get your response on it. Maria Bartiromo had Senator Rand Paul on, and she asked a question about whether or not Dr. Anthony Fauci should be prosecuted. Listen.
Do you believe if President Trump were to win, should there be a prosecution of Dr. Anthony Fauci?
What I'm asking President Trump, and what I hope he will offer, is access to all of the records. Right now, the NIH is withholding records. They're withholding records more so than the CIA or the FBI. They have completely withheld all records of the decision-making process on whether or not this research was dangerous or gain of function. So I hope Trump will open the books. I hope Trump will say, you can look at everything, and that my committee will be allowed to investigate this thoroughly because we've been hampered by the Biden administration. I think if he does that, he'll go a long way towards getting some voters who are still skeptical about the lockdowns and about the Trump administration's reaction to the virus, who want to see more strength and more opposition to the deep state within the public health administration.
There's a long way to go for Rand Paul to not really answer the question about whether or not Fauci should be prosecuted. Congressman, let me ask this. I know that by and large, the investigation is about the origins of COVID. What are they hoping to accomplish with all of this?
Oh, we need to learn from our mistakes, for one thing. There were a tremendous number of mistakes made throughout the process, whether it was vaccination, what drugs could be used, what couldn't be. And I think the public kind of fell victim to government overreach in this case. But if there was gain-of-function research being funded by the United States through Wuhan lab or other places, there's a lot of, I think, legal implications, because if you remember all the damage the pandemic did to our economy, to people's businesses. People went out of business, never got back. There was all kinds of misspent money. There's certainly people who died for various reasons, sometimes directly because of the virus, sometimes because of the treatment or lack of treatment for the virus. So this has a lot of implications, and I don't want to call it armchair quarterbacking, but like I said, I think we've learned things through the pandemics. I think we made a lot of mistakes during the pandemics, and when this happens, or if it happens again, we need to do it better. But I think it's extremely important that we know the truth and facts about what went on, and hopefully that some of that will come out today.
Congressman, and I agree with you, mistakes were made, but I think there's a lot of corruption as well. And part of what I hope the conversation is that Dr. Anthony Fauci, and as I like to call them, his henchmen, they went out to discredit very credible scientists, Great Barrington Declaration and so forth, where they were sounding the alarm on the negative impacts of the lockdowns, and they went after these scientists to try to destroy their credibility. And you're right, absolutely right. Mistakes were made, but there is also a lot of corruption. That's not a mistake, that's corruption.
Right. And when you see kids on a basketball court wearing masks, where they tell you to go outside where it's safe, and then you're playing soccer with masks on, or you know that elderly were the most vulnerable. So when a vaccination came out, I was for vaccinating the elderly, but vaccine mandates I was never for. I thought it should have been your own choice. And they were vaccinating military-age people, young people, and there's no doubt been cardiac repercussions and things that are proven and things that we don't even know are going to happen yet. So all that's important to know. But when they were forced vaccinating people, that's a real problem. That's not a free country, and people should have been able to make some of their own decisions. So, I think that there were so many missteps. And as a physician, I never looked at this as a political issue. I looked at it as a medical issue. I know my Facebook post got censored and banned multiple times, and I feel like everything that they ever censored on my Facebook, it was later proven correct. And so things like that, I really sow mistrust among the public.
All right, moving on. We've got, of course, the guilty verdict. I have not yet spoken to you regarding the guilty verdict that happened last week. Do you have any reaction? Do you have any predictions? Where does this whole thing go next?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't think it's going to change the hearts and minds of many Trump supporters. It looked like a sham trial from the judge to the district attorney, prosecutors, everyone that campaigned on bringing Trump down. I guess what strikes me about this was Hillary Clinton at the same time lied about using campaign funds to fund the Steele dossier, got the Russians involved, got the British spies involved, got the DOJ, FBI, Crossfire Hurricane, so on and so forth. We all know the story. And what ended up happening to her, I believe, was some type of a Federal Elections Commission or FEC fine. Well, the same thing here with Trump. 8 years later, coincidentally, during an election year, while he's the front runner, he's sitting in a courtroom on basically an issue of whether he mishandled business records that should have been an FEC violation like Clinton's were determined to be. And instead, they turned what were misdemeanors somehow into a felony charge and successfully rounded up a jury of not his peers in a district, in an area that he lost 90% of the vote, have a judge that's anti-Trump, a daughter that works for the DNC, and we get a guilty verdict on all 34 counts, and now they're talking sentencing 4 days before the Republican convention that could potentially keep Trump from even attending. He could be on house arrest. He could be in jail. Right. And I think most people are going to view this as a banana republic type thing where the Biden DOJ has taken out his top opponent.
Well, you're in the swamp, Congressman. I know that you're surrounded by, of course, Republicans, but how is the swamp by and large? I mean, it's a very Democrat area where Washington, D.C. is. What are the Democrats saying? I mean, are they understanding that the American people are watching this and they do believe that it is unfair and that they do believe that it is a banana republic?
I think most of them right now are thinking it's a campaign hit. We got a convicted felon running for president, and they're going to sing that from the rooftops. That's already been a strategy that's out there. They all probably know this is going to be overturned on appeal because of just the way it was handled. Not just the jury, but the judge and what was allowed and what wasn't allowed in the trial. It was so irregular and unprecedented that I think that this will get overturned, but it'll be after the election. So their purpose was simply almost like an October surprise in June to have a president convicted of a felony. Meanwhile, we still, Hunter Biden starting his things, but they're trying to get to the big guy, and that's probably not going to happen. Trump's other cases aren't going to happen. So these are really just political warfare campaign type hits, but I think the Democrats will go along with it. He's guilty now, and he's going to be guilty until proven innocent by appeal. So I think they'll use it against him in the campaign. Deep down in their hearts, do they think it was a joke? Probably. If they would be honest with me, I'll check with some of my friends that are more moderate and see what they say.
8:15, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Congressman Scott DesJarlais is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Congressman, going to ask you about Joe Biden. Looks like he's going to provide amnesty for over 300,000 illegal aliens. That story is straight ahead. Time to check the roads on WTN. Thank you very much. 8:16, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Congressman Scott DesJarlais is joining us. And the headline from the New York Post, Biden administration offering, and this is an air quote, and the headline, mass amnesty to migrants as it quietly terminates 350,000 asylum cases, according to sources. And so basically what they're doing is that they haven't been granted or denied asylum. Their cases are basically just terminated without a decision on the merits of their asylum claim. And so what this ultimately means is that they don't have to check in with immigration authority. They can just, as I've said, it feels like thousands of times, they just dissolve into society. This is amnesty for all of these illegal aliens.
Right. In Biden's thought process, 350,000 Democratic voters.
Yep.
But, this automatically qualifies them for SNAP. That's one thing I've been arguing about when we did the Farm Bill markup last week. Any immigrant or illegal immigrant that comes into this country that's 18 or under automatically qualifies for the SNAP program. anyone seeking asylum that's granted asylum qualifies for the SNAP program. So here we are giving free education, free food, free health care, all this to people that are not here legally, where the rest of the people are struggling and our debt continues to spiral. But this is probably going to be his least popular decision since writing off billions in student loans, offending everyone who ever paid for their own student loans, including myself. I mean, it's an issue that makes people angry, but he thinks it's a way to get young voters, and I guess amnesty is a way to potentially get illegal voters. And, the border crisis continues to spiral out of control, as we see with, literally, I don't even know how many million people are in this country illegally. When I came into office, they were guessing it was 10 or 11 million. And now, I'm guessing it's upward to 20 or 30 million, which is 10% of our total population.
Well, and just like you're talking about the student debt debacle of Joe Biden, but, just like that, where it's like every couple of weeks, Biden is forgiving many, many more millions of dollars in student loan debt. I wonder if this is just the first of many cases where Biden is just going to come in and he's got, another 300,000, another 400,000 of these folks that he is going to basically grant amnesty to. This could be just the first of many because, there's millions of people that are here illegally. We don't even know how many people are here illegally. And I mean, it seems to me like whether it is the paying off of this student loan debt, which is incredibly unpopular, allowing all of these illegals to continuously come into our country, then give them amnesty. There's really, I think the American people right now feel rather helpless.
Yeah. And interestingly, I just got back from it was a Armed Services Codel to South America, where we're looking at Chinese influence in various countries like Argentina and Chile and Colombia and then Panama. But what's kind of fascinating, where most of the illegals are crossing through Colombia because Colombia attaches to Panama, and of course Panama is just a bridge into Latin America and then on up to Mexico. But the Venezuelan immigrants in Colombia were a huge problem. They also have like 1 million Venezuelans that are in Colombia. But what they noted there, they have a better grasp on it as a government than we do. They see the Chinese that are coming through and the Venezuelans that are coming through. Panama doesn't really have a place to keep them, but they're all aware of the threat. And that's the thing we worry about most in America. I mean, we need an orderly immigration process. We all know that. But what about the bad actors? And we're talking, 40, 50,000 Chinese that they've seen coming through Colombia. And it's like, how do they get there and what does it cost? It can cost upward to 40,000. And I said, how do they afford it? And they said the families will come together and send one person and get them there. And because of chain migration, if they can get one member of their family into the United States with our chain migration policy, then in comes mom and dad, sister, brother, cousins, uncles. And so they're paying tremendous amounts of money. But as we know, it's a big business. They have different bracelets trying to get through the Darien Gap there from Colombia into Panama. And they pay different amounts depending on whether they walk, whether they go on mule, whether they go by boat. But both Panama and Colombia seem to understand the national threat of violent criminals. They're trying to use biometrics to see whether there's anybody that we are aware of. But if you don't have American records of criminals, then the biometrics don't do much good. But they are able to send some bad actors back, but it's a minuscule, 1%.
Yeah. But
I mean, just through the Darien Gap last year into Panama, over 500,000-600,000 people came through, and they said, hey, there's bad actors here. And it's not really their problem because they keep migrating north, but they understand it and they see the threat. It seems better than our own current administration, who denies that, it's a problem.
I don't remember where you were on this whole banning of TikTok thing. I know that Congressman Mark Green and Senator Marsha Blackburn, they've sort of been leading the charge, and I've interviewed both of them about this. I'm also honest and let everybody know I wasn't a big fan of banning TikTok. However, Trump himself tried to ban TikTok years ago, advocated for it. Now he's on TikTok. So I personally, I think it's a smart move for the president. He's doing the former president because he's going to where the younger voters are. And again, it's an interesting dynamic because a lot of Republicans want TikTok banned. Where do you stand on all that?
Well, I think what what the biggest issue on the whole TikTok ban was that we wanted it to be an American entity, not a Chinese entity. So we wanted TikTok to be sold and be American owned, so there was better guardrails on it. So that's where I came down on that. Was that yes, let's we don't have to get rid of TikTok, but let's have it controlled by an American entity.
And what do you think of Trump being on TikTok and going to those younger voters? Pretty smart move?
Well, right now it's a free for all. We got an election just 5 months away, and every vote counts. And we've got to deal with we still have to deal with issues in Atlanta and Philadelphia and Maricopa County, and we want to make sure that we're in the game and we're out getting the votes and voting early. And it's going to take all those things. We've got to play like the Democrats do. We've got to if harvesting ballots is legal in certain areas, we need to beat them at their own game. So if Trump can get the young voters on TikTok, then he needs to get all the votes he can get in all the different places he can get them.
Man, you are spot on that. I